Hello everybody, it's Liam from RITF Gaming. Today I'm just thought I'd do a little deck profile based on my current favourite anyway, Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck going, which is of course Ultra Athletes or UAs. So obviously I'm not actually only just going to be showing you cards and telling you how many copies I run like some people do. I'm actually going to be explaining their relevance in the deck, and you know how fun they are to use UAs, because you know I think they're really fun to play with. Phrasing, but also because I want to explain the strategy behind the deck, and why it is how it is. So if people are interested but don't really know too much about it, well then, you know, I guess that's kind of why I'm making this video. That, and I want to show off, because, you know, this deck is really good and fun to play. So, anyway, the first card is UA Midfielder. Now, I run 2 copies of UA Midfielder, and at the moment, I heard say that there's going to be another card like this, but at the moment this is the only level 4 or lower card that can be normal summoned from the deck, or from the hand, sorry, in a turn. Now, I'll explain why that is later, but at the moment, so I say, running 2 copies of UA Midfielder, 1200 attack, and 1000 defense points. Then one of my favourite cards, and the first one I ever got in the UA deck, was Mighty Slugger. Now, I run 3 copies of him, so Juan du Trois. He has his 2300 attack points and only 700 defense points, but he's Mighty Slugger, he doesn't need much else. Now I have 2 copies of UA Perfect Ace at 1500 with a 2500 defense, which is quite impressive. I'm just going to rattle through this so I can actually get to talking about the deck. So there's UA Dreadnought Dunker, who has 2500, 1800, as you can see, and I run 1, 2, 3 copies of him. Then I have 2 copies of UA Goalkeeper, who has a 2800 defense. Rival Rebounder, 2200, 2300. He's a decent all-rounder card. You know, you can play him in either one of the situations that you would normally use these UA cards for. And I have 3 copies of him. I only have 2 copies of Playmaker, who is a 2600, 2000. He's a pretty powerful monster. And of course, I have Block Backer, who is a 2700 defense point monster with only 1600 attack. Now, of course, one question you'll probably ask from that is, okay, so you have so many high-level cards. You clearly only have 2 cards that are capable of being normal summoned. This deck is very much based upon special summoning, and I'll explain, you know, why it is like that in a sec. But of course, I'll just rattle through the rest of this as well, so I can explain it all, you know, without, you know, everyone forgetting what it's all about. So obviously I also run 3 copies of Rota, or 2 copies, sorry, of Rota. That's to get Midfielder to my hand as soon as possible. I also run 2 copies of Mystical Space Typhoon, so you know, it's MST. I have another Block Backer. My bad. I thought I only had the one. So I actually have 2 Block Backers. Alright, let's carry on with that. I've also got 3 copies of UA Stadium. That's one of the most crucial cards in the deck. And I also have 3 copies of Terraforming to help me get that to the hand. Sweet. Then I also run 3 copies of UA Power Jersey. This is a fantastic card. I wouldn't say it was pivotal to the strategy of the deck, but it certainly helps it out. Another way of getting a card, a monster onto the field. I normally go with midfielder anyway, just so I can start settling into my strategy, but I can special summon anything by paying the amount of life points the card's level is, so in this case it would be 1800 because it's times 300, sorry. Then I have 1 copy of Mirror Force just in case. I also have 3 copies of UA Penalty Box, 1, 2, 3. That's another one of the cards I got before I got the deck properly constructed. And last but not least, I also have 1 copy of Mischief of the Gnomes. I don't really use this card at all. I might change that out for something else. But at the moment, there's my deck going on. Okay, so obviously what you've just seen is a whole bunch of cards that I've just thrown at you with very little to no explanation about what they actually are or what they actually do. So I'm going to pull the deck back together because at the moment I've just sort of scattered it around, and I'm going to explain how this works. So of course, if you might have noticed, there's quite a few searcher cards. I mean, Terraforming for Stadium, and Monster Searchers with Rota and Signing Deal. So this deck is primarily based around special summoning the monsters that do not have a level 4 or lower summoning condition. Essentially, I think Konami's inspiration for this deck was, if anyone's ever seen hockey with line changes that happen, or the American football where they swap teams for offense, defense, etc. That was basically their inspiration behind this deck. So that's why you'll see a lot of this sort of special summoning. Now, there's a lot of back and forth between them in terms of I can put down a UA midfielder, like so. And then I can use the effect of Rival Rebounder, say if I have him in hand, pull him back to the hand, and put him from hand onto the field. It's a fantastic strategy, and it really opens it up to being a very control-based, you can't do anything because I'm stopping you from doing anything kind of deck. So obviously what you want to do is, I should really get rid of Mischief of the Gnomes and put in another rotor. I do have another rotor. For consistency's sake, you do need searchers, and you need a lot of them. Now, obviously, I've mentioned that one of the key cards is UA Midfielder. Now, of course, that's the case because he's the only card that can be normal summoned in a turn. So you'll need him to your hand, preferably, to try and get the special summoning going off. Also, another great card in combination with that is something like UA Stadium. Now, UA Stadium says that if a normal monster is normal summoned, obviously that being a UA one, of course, to my side of the field, I can search my deck, add another UA monster to the hand. It could be anybody. I mean, I often prefer to try and get a Goalkeeper first turn, or Mighty Slugger, depending on how I'm feeling. But I might try and change it up with Perfect Ace every now and then, just to keep people guessing. And if a UA monster is special summoned to my side of the field once per turn, all monsters I currently control on my side of the field gain 500 attack points. So it's very much an offense-based kind of in terms of the card setting itself up, but there's also some great defensive maneuvers capable should you choose. I mean, of course, I packed it with a couple of MSTs just in case people are trying to stop me from special summoning with something like Deck Lockdown, or of course I can, which would prevent me from special summoning completely, because then I would be only able to draw cards from the deck. So that would really shut the game down for me. But something like Penalty Box is a great defensive maneuver, which effectively is a well, it's a sin bin card, or, well, I suppose the American equivalent being Penalty Box. So at the start of the damage step, if my UA monster, let's pick Mighty Slugger because he's my favourite, was battled an opponent monster, I can banish that monster until the end of my opponent's second end phase. I can only use the effect of this once per turn, so that's why there's 3. So I've actually had 3 separate Penalty Boxes working at once. Of course, Mirror Force, again, just in case someone try something when I'm trying to get to the stage of preparedness. Mischief of the Gnomes, I mean, it's okay. I can reduce the levels of all monsters in my hand by 1, even after they're summoned or set. I can banish this card from the graveyard and reduce the levels again. So effectively I could have, if I was in trouble, I could have a level 6 Rival Rebounder or a level 6 Block Backer. Oh, he's actually level 7. I tried. Yeah, but anyway, I could have something like Goalkeeper or Rival Rebounder and reduce their levels by 1 or 2 in this case, and help me to get cards back out onto the field. Because one of the worst things about UA is if you haven't got any cards on the field. So, then I got down to another fairly key component. I mean, it's something that really helps the deck in terms of moving from control to real good offense, and that would, of course, be UA Power Jersey. This is an equipped card that boosts 1,000... attack and defense to a card, and if it battles, then one of the best things to do is that it doubles your damage dealt to an opponent, and if the equipped monster destroys the target, it can attack again in the same battle phase. But in the standby phase on your next turn, the card is banished. The equipped card is banished, but this does return to the hand if the card was banished. The monster card, that is. If the monster card was banished... oh no, sorry, other way around. If the card is sent to the if this card is sent to the graveyard because the equipped monster returned to the hand, there we go, I can add it back to my hand. I knew it was one of those two. So you can, get Power Jersey back, and obviously I run 3 copies. That can be really helpful when it combines with Mighty Slugger, because of course Mighty Slugger can only be special summoned once per turn, yada yada. If this card attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step, which effectively would make him at least a 3/3 with the chance to attack again. It's a really great strategy going off there. My favourite thing to do personally is the whole line change concept, and I know that's probably meant to be part of it anyway. You don't have to special summon during your turn, I understand. It just says once per turn. So one thing I love to do is to put someone like Playmaker on, or Mighty Slugger, actually absolutely destroy people, hammer away at hit my opponent's life points, then quickly swap out before he can try and do anything with something like Goalkeeper, who has 2800 defense, or Block Backer, who also has quite a high defensive value, and just absolutely shut them down from doing anything. And effectively that's one of the best things to do with this deck. It can, you can end a game pretty quickly with this. So I've obviously mentioned that Mighty Slugger can't be blocked, can't have cards activated against him during the battle. I think special effects wise, there's something like Perfect Ace, which once per turn during my opponent's turn, when the card or effect is activated, I can discard one card. So he's a good sort of bit of defense because there's not very much of a strong back row in the UA deck. So something like Perfect Ace, I've kind of underappreciated him in my deck, usually because I just go for an all-out attacking strategy and then swap to defensive monsters at the end of the turn. Someone like Dreadnought Dunker, let's have a quick look at him again. When the card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, I can target one card in the field, destroy it. So again, it's something like if someone had an inconvenient trap card that prevented special summon or something, or a monster, so I could set up for someone else. So he's a good little card to sort of set yourself up with. Blockbacker, the one I actually have 2 copies of, not the one I lie, is once per turn when my opponent special summons a monster, I can change the battle position. If I do, negate their effects. So if he tries doing some special summoning stuff, that's pretty handy, because I know quite a few people that base this as also on special summon. Goalkeeper! Let's have a quick look again at him, more than briefly. Once per turn, during my opponent's turn, I can target one UA monster I control and cannot be destroyed by card or battle effects. So that's, again, really helpful if you're trying to use the effect of UA Stadium, which obviously is special summon once per turn, 500 attack if you special summon a UA monster. So if I'm trying to pump up Mighty Slugger to sort of stupidly high levels, like 5k or something, then I can do that with him not being destroyed because of the effect of Goalkeeper. Rival Rebounder, his effect is to... When your focus is, when you can special summon one UA monster from my hand or graveyard, expect Rival Rebounder when this is special summoned during your opponent's turn, which is obviously to say that it's entirely possible for you to just line change halfway through your opponent's main phase. Just be like, well, yeah, I'm going to put out Goalkeeper now because I don't like your strategy. And of course I have Playmaker, who is, I guess he's pretty powerful too. I think he's the most powerful out-and-out attack card I have. I've probably got that wrong now, but once per turn, when another UA monster I can control declares an attack, I can have this card lose exactly 800 attack, and if I do so, the attacking monster gains 800. It's a great way of lulling someone into a false sense of security, or if they use something like Rush Recklessly, or whatever have you, or Reinforcements, I can just be like, okay, so you might have done that, but now Playmaker's going to just gain 800 attack. Put 800 attack on, say, Mighty Slugger. Thank you very much for watching what is probably quite a long-winded deck profile. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm always available. Google+, as well as the channel being available to speak to on Facebook and Twitter. You can follow Joe's personal account at JoeWolf26 on Tumblr. But thank you very much for watching. If you want to see more of these, then please do let me know. I have plenty more decks that I would love to talk about. And I hope this was informative and interesting. I'll take it easy, guys, and I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ra for now.